improvements, but also in overall economic development. Specifically, what we have done is to provide funding to support parliaments across the continent. So those are the kinds of direct support that we give to strengthen them in their role as legislators, as well as those who provide oversight for improving governance. But secondly, we also support the institutions that are either at the country level or at the regional level that promote democracy, including such as the African Union, the NEPAD, as well as the African Peer Review Mechanism. And we also provide a whole lot of support to organizations that promote democracy across the continent.
Now, Professor, one of the issues bothering the continent is the issue of seat-tight leaders who refuse to relinquish power after spending decades in office. How can this issue be resolved?
Well, I think having seen what happened very recently in the Gambia, I think that gives us a whole lot of hope for the future. Because in most cases, the domination that exists from such kinds of long regimes is that the people in the country find themselves unable to actually exercise their own democratic rights and be able to choose who will rule them and how they will be ruled. Therefore, the role of the regional entities, in particular, in the case of the Gambia, the ECOWAS, which is the regional economic community, had to come in and try to assist the Gambians in maybe exercising their own political will and improving their conditions. So it seems to me that in most cases the regional entities, the continental entities and international community will really have a very strong role to play in assisting countries to really be able to democratize and improve the welfare of their people.
So let's turn our attention to South Africa, where there have been a spate of xenophobic attacks. What do you think could be responsible for this, and what is the solution to this recurring problem?
Well, there's a lot of speculations about what could be leading to this. But no matter what the source of the problem is, I think it's a very unfortunate situation. South Africa being a country whose liberation was really supported by many African countries, some of whose citizens are in South Africa right now being exposed to attacks. I guess that often when economic opportunities are not there, it's always very easy to scapegoat and find somebody that people can point to as being responsible for their situation. So I think it's very important to pay attention to the economic conditions and social issues that underpin these kinds of behavior, in terms of xenophobic behavior, I mean. But more importantly, the leaders have to step up to really send a very strong message of tolerance, of understanding, and to say that the rule of law should be what will prevail. In any case, that if there are incidences where some non-citizens are found to be not acting in accordance with the law, that there are judicial and regulatory mechanisms that are in place that could be used to do that. But any kind of inflammatory or promotion of actions of mass action against individuals should not be tolerated. It's unfortunate that we find ourselves, Africans, being seen as foreigners in Africa. I hope, and I'm very, very confident, that the South African authorities would do what is necessary to really help to change mindsets and to begin to deal with this issue in collaboration with other African countries in general, but in particular those countries who find that they have the largest number of citizens in South Africa.
Well, finally, Professor, developed nations have been able to harness science and technology as well as research for their development. How does Africa measure up in this regard?
Africa has not done very well when it comes to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And we at the African Capacity Building Foundation have been at the forefront of sounding this alarm bell. We recently conducted a study to, looking at the capacity imperatives for achieving the African Agenda 2063, as well as the Sustainable Development Goals. And, the alarming capacity gaps in STEM, in science, technology, and engineering and mathematics, is something that we have been bringing to the attention of the authorities, that if you really want to transform the continent, if you want to industrialize Africa, and if you want to bring about structural transformation, that it's not just simply a matter of talking about it, you may not actually have the capacity. And specifically, what we're saying is that you need engineers, you need technicians, you need all kinds of scientific expertise, as well as others who are in those kinds of areas. And when you look at the gap that we have between what exists actually and what is produced on a yearly basis, it is really, really shocking to show you, to indicate the amount of work that needs to be done. We estimated that at least 2.4 million engineers is what we need if we want to really achieve the first 10-year goal of the Agenda 2063. But more importantly, the educational institutions that are there, many of them are not able to really produce the caliber and the quality that is needed for those who actually obtain these educational attainments to be able to be productive enough to either be employable or to be self-employable. And thirdly, too, the continent has neglected vocational education for so many years, and that has been to its own detriment. I think time has come for us to really look at this issue very seriously and put the attention that is necessary there. We are calling for what we call a tripartite high-level dialogue on education in Africa, where we would have to bring together the public sector, the government, the private sector, as well as the institutions themselves, the universities and the other tertiary institutions, so that once and for all, African universities will educate African young people to solve Africa's problems.
All right, the Executive Secretary of the African Capacity Building Foundation, Professor Emmanuel Unadozie, thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa. Still to come on the program, a Kenyan filmmaker and entrepreneur, Paul Kihula, contributes his quota to developing the country's local film industry. Please stay with us.